Bird, 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 bird! Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it is the 30th of November. Normally in Michigan, the 30th of November is kind of like the day before Christmas for grouse hunters. And why I say that is the state of Michigan, I don't know if there's other ones that do this, but they close their upland season down during rifle season for deer hunters. I don't know, they do that. I'm not sure if they do that to protect us and our dogs or if they do it because deer hunters rule the roost in Michigan. I don't know why, but for as long as I've known, it's been on the books. But the 1st of December, it opens back up. Now, sadly, like I said, I'm getting a knee replacement. My knee's shot. I'll probably hit a couple trails when I get home from Florida. But the one thing that you can rely on that never closes, 24/7, 365, is Onyx Elite. That never closes. Even if you can't get out and hunt, you can sit at your desk and scout. And let's be honest, scouting, whether it's in a truck or on your computer, daydreaming about the next place you go. And in fact, my neighbor asked me how I surveyed my property to do a timber sale years ago. He lives just due west of me and kitty corner. I showed him on my phone. I showed him Onyx, and he says, well, I never heard of that. And I said, well, you're not a hunter? I don't know why everybody has it. They should probably give this class in grade school now, how to use your Onyx for everything in life. It's there for every adventure you take. It's always been there for me, and it always will be. And I told him, just by chance, if you wanted to use the promo code HDP20, you'd save 20% on the Elite membership. I think they just got a new subscriber. He's going to be cutting. He's going to do a timber project, but he's going to it's going to be DIY, and he wants to make sure where he stands, which is really the old mantra of Onyx. Anyway, this episode that I did with Pat Burns from Elite Retrievers, I was doing a little research. Now, I do that with almost everybody unless I've known him for years and I know everything about him. But I've met Pat a couple times. He's a great talker, great trainer, great person trainer for the dog world. Like, he spent 20 years training dogs in a kennel, and now he spends his years training people to train their dogs, which is what the name of a course he's re-released called Bombproof Basics is all about. Well, I always go on and on and on about all my sponsors, and I try to keep it down. Like right now, we're only at 2.5 minutes, right? Which is that in itself would be a miracle if I said enjoy the episode. But I looked up his Bombproof Basics definition on his website, and there was synonyms for what the word bombproof means. And it actually gave me a synonym for every one of my sponsors. The synonyms are unbreakable, dependable, stable, reliable, strong, stalwart, durable, sturdy. Well, just coincidentally, Gunner Kennels, unbreakable. Garmin, dependable. Canine Athlete, stable. Mossberg, reliable. Boss, strong. Purina, stalwart. Marshwear, durable. Arxis boots, sturdy. Now, I couldn't find a synonym for backcountry preserves because it's not bombproof. It's not a synonym for bombproof, but you're going to hear me talk about backcountry preserves for a few months here because I just went down there and did that episode with Kenton, and he wanted to do a little advertising. So if you've got a little adventure you're looking to do, you don't have time to go out west, or maybe you don't want to go down to Arizona, you just want to have a nice day or a whole weekend shooting some quail in Kentucky, I'm telling you, you'll not be sad. It's fun. And, I love when people say, oh, I love hunting this, I love hunting that. I'm like, yeah, those are kind of easy to hit. You know what? When a covey of quail come up, you got to pick one out. You got a lot of work to do, and you want to you want to hone your skills. Let's say if you're going to go down to Arizona and try to get those little quail that run all over the place and don't fly, I'd go to Backcountry Preserves. I'd get a hold of Kenton and say, hey, I need a day or an afternoon to go out there and try to chase these quail. That's what I would do myself, personally. I'll I don't know how to work this one in because there's no cinnamon for it except maybe Marvelous would be Watermark Brewery. I just picked up another barrel of Mark V. It's going quick. It's going quick. In fact, I told the two young kids that are watching the kennel for me while I'm gone, I said, now there's about a half a barrel left in here. And when I get back, I don't want it empty. And then I winked at them. I said, you can have a couple glasses, but that's it. And if they were open, when I'm going through in the morning, if I can find it, Watermark won't be open, but I would go down there. I would actually just get maybe a couple cases of Bodega Mexican lager. That's like you can find that in a lot of stores. Anyway, yeah, that's it. You know, like I said, Gunner Kennels, Unbreakable, Garmin, Dependable, Canine Athlete, Stable, Mossberg, Reliable, Boss, Strong, Purina, Stalwart, Marshwear, Durable, Arxis, Boots, Sturdy. What else could I do? I mean, that's not bad, really. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Come on, give me a break. If you skip this one, well, you know, you missed the creativity side of me. I think my teachers missed the creativity side of me in school. All right, love you guys, love you girls, and I love you patrons more, and you know what that means. Patreon, Patreon. You know what that means. Most of you know what it is. Tons of you are patrons of the show, and I love every one of you just a smidgen more than I do my regular listeners. Talk to you soon.
All right, everybody. Pat, this is Pat Burns from Elite Retriever. He's on the podcast with me today, Elite Retriever Training. And I've been seeing some ads that Pat's been running for his Bombproof Basics. And I remember the first time I heard that name, I was like, the name just grabbed me. And one of the things we used to say, like in my world, there was only one aspect of a puppy that could possibly be bulletproof or bombproof. And maybe you'd agree or not agree, Pat, you've trained a lot more dogs than me, is I think there are a certain amount of dogs that you probably would have to try to make gun shy. Like noise just isn't a factor for them. Like other than that, is there anything else that's bomb-proof in a dog, or do we got to work at every aspect of this?
Well, I mean, as far as the exposing your dog to gunshots, I mean, as a puppy, I like to have them out in the atmosphere of excitement with the dogs. I don't have them right near a gun, but just that whole routine and atmosphere. So they associate anything like that with people and smells and feathers and all kinds of things. And, but you could, I mean, if you were not thoughtful at all, you could certainly make a dog gun shy if you weren't careful, and or shy to really any of the factors of the field. A report of a gun is certainly something that is harsh and that it can be startling. But as far as other dogs and noises and things like that, I think the more you expose puppies to that and make that world their playground, the bolder and better they are.
All right. So if there is no such thing as a bomb-proof dog, how do we make one, Pat? And give us a little explanation about it.
Well, when I think of bomb-proof, I think of a fundamental program that enables you to advance a dog. It really starts with just really the key obedience commands. And for me, and it's going to be similar in a world of other breeds and other sporting breeds, I say if the main three are, you got to go, you got to stop, and you got to come. In other words, you got to sit, you got to stop when you're told, whether it's sit or whoa.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, oh, come, that's easy. Well, it's not so easy when you've got a highly driven dog who's got a ton of prey drive and he's got bird scent in his nose and he doesn't want to listen. And so, and the go part for us is the commitment to retrieve. And you could draw a parallel, I think, in most any of these breeds.
Yeah.
The whole idea behind a basics program was, first of all, getting a dog prepared to be advanced and building the tools to deal with problems before you have the problems. So you have the classic things that dogs are going to do at times.
Right.
They're not going to come at some point. They're not going to sit on a whistle. There's classic things that any high-driven dog, when he gets over exuberant, is going to do, and you're going to want to be able to correct him for it.
Right.
And if and that's the big thing is when you get into the e-collar, people get themselves in trouble when they just rip the cellophane off, put it on, and go out in the field and start making corrections.
Right.
There's a long building process that prepares them to understand it. And the e-collar is not about correction as much as it is reinforcement. And you're working on reinforcing positive behavior. In other words, if a dog you're reinforcing coming
Mm-hmm.
in a situation where they don't feel like coming. You're reinforcing and making them sit. So you're reinforcing something positive more than correcting something negative. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
and when you look at it that way, there's a fundamental foundation process that leads up to being able to do that. And so when you want to be able to use advanced technology via the e-collar to train a dog at a distance. So two big things are you're not restricted by the distance you are from the dog, and the timing is perfect. So you can add reinforcement and correction, so to speak, at the point that a dog is doing the behavior that you want to correct. And it's much more understandable. So those things are highly valuable. It isn't that it's harsher or anything than anything else. It's that it is consistent. It has no distance limitations for the most part.
Yeah.
And the timing is perfect. If you could do those are the three things that we couldn't do 50 years ago.
Right.
Dogs were corrected after the fact. You called them in and you corrected them for something they did 3 or 4 minutes ago. And you're hoping, and chances are, they're not even sure what they got corrected for. Now, maybe they're a little bit more on guard and they listen better, but did they truly understand what it was associated to?
Right.
Probably not.
They could be confused, right? I mean,
they absolutely are confused.
Yeah.
So, how about you're going to get it when your dad gets home?
Yeah. Well, that worked for us. It worked for my mom.
Yeah. And this is like when your dad gets home. But if you could say, hey, don't do that right when you're in the initiation of starting to do something, you're going to be less likely. It's going to make more sense to you.
Yeah. I guess I heard somebody do an analogy. It's like the old saying, if you touch a stove and you burn your hand, you learn not to touch the stove. But if you could give that correction just as they felt the heat, and they never had to get burned, but
right.
They would associate that with like, oh, I get it, like without getting burned, which is
right.
An old term from the old collar days, which is getting burned.
Right.
Yeah.
And immediate feedback is valuable in training humans and animals. Yeah. So that's the value of that tool. So getting back to the whole basics thing, there is a preparation process that goes in to prepare the dogs to learn how to function and understand those kinds of reinforcement tools. And it's not done randomly. So you teach them how to respond to sit with a correction, hear with a correction, fetch with a correction, or with a reinforcement. I'm going to use that word.
Yeah.
And you build in it in small increments so they understand how to respond, so that there isn't the confusion when a correction or reinforcement happens that I'm not sure what I need to do. And that's where the fear and misunderstanding comes in. And that's where people and dogs get in trouble. And so if you make it, the first part of this is identifying the task. And I think we all are guilty at times of not teaching enough.
Yeah.
And this is about teaching what the rules are, reinforcing them with the tools that you are going to use when you're out in the field and you've just bumped, 15 hen pheasants.
Yeah.
And your dog, his eyes are rolled back in his head and he's fired up and he said he forgets about all the rules.
Right. He's like, damn it. One of them had a long tail. I don't care.
Yeah. And I'm just like overwhelmed with excitement. Or that kind of scenario. So, at some point that day is going to be there. So the whole process of designing and building the understanding of how to reinforce the positive behavior when those days come before they ever come takes all of the guesswork out of the equation. So a Bombproof Basics program sets the stage for a dog, to do all the tasks they need to do, to understand the reinforcement to do them even when they don't feel like doing them, and then you proof it in enough situations so that you know what makes it bomb-proof is when you do flush those 15 pheasants, or you jump a rabbit, or they jump a deer, or they get to a field trial and they smell other dogs and their eyes are rolled back in their head and they're just like, I gotta, and they forget you think they're going to forget all the things they're going to learn. So you proof it to the degree that it holds up when the excitement is overwhelming.
Kind of like training them to be a Navy SEAL as opposed to just a regular old infantryman.
Yeah.
There's a little extra. Well, I might be going backwards on this, but this course is part of one of your courses, right?
Correct.
And is this also a course that people can attend, or is this a video course in your program?
And that's a great question. It is a part. So it all goes. And if you're at all interested in checking it out, you can go to eliteretrievers.com. ELITE, Elite Retrievers, RETRIEVERS.com.
Yep.
And it'll come up, and the homepage will be the Pat Burns Elite Retriever Training site. So there is, and right at the top of the page, you can hit shop courses.
Gotcha. Okay.
And at that point, you can look at wagon wheel lining drill, which is an exercise in teaching a retriever to take lines. Line mechanics is a deal about all of the mechanic stuff that goes into the delivery sending process of a retriever. These are all different courses. The wagon wheel drill, lining drill, is a free course, but our signature course is Bombproof Basics. Okay. And it took us about 2.5 to 3 years of filming of three dogs entirely from soup to nuts through this. And filming is one thing, editing is another.
I learned that when we did the Upland Institute. Yes.
So
we had 2 years worth of filming for 4 hours of content.
Right. And that's kind of so my wife and myself and other people filmed day in and day out as if you came out and watched every day. And I took what I thought were the valuable things over the course of, this is, a basics course is a 4 to 6 month program, depending on, how many days you can train and how is the dog, can the dog train 5 days a week?
Right.
But some of them are more immature and you got to take more time. But this showed everything that went from start to finish. And I worked really hard to show the not so good days, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because so many of the video courses show dogs that are finished. Yeah, you could put together a basics course in 2 weeks demonstrating all of the things with dogs that have already done them.
Right. But that's teaching you much.
when the what hits the fan,
right,
and and you say, all right, what do we do now? And the other thing that is valuable, if you see it, is that I'm not only doing it, I'm coaching 3 owners who've never really done a basics program to do it themselves. Wow. So I'm talking to them, and then sometimes I'm taking over and demonstrating, and I'm oftentimes then after the session that was not so good, I'm talking them off the ledge and explaining what went on, why it's important to have adversity along the way, because that's what makes things bomb-proof. When it isn't just, if everything just goes perfect, well, that's not the real world. No. That's not going to happen forever. So how do we get out when things get ugly? And so this was a culmination of 3 dogs, but there's a few other guest dogs, but sure. 3 dogs that I really followed closely, that I was a part of an everyday program. And I pieced it together, put together a format with 10 modules, 90 some videos, almost 20 hours of video. It's a little bit overwhelming, but it is, if you take it in little pieces, it's
Yeah.
essentially coming and watching a professional that's done thousands of basics dogs.
Right.
You could come watch every day. That's
Yeah.
that's what I made available. We also do periodic, when we open the course, we'll do calls. We'll do monthly calls, Zoom calls like this,
Right.
where the audience comes on. We cover the first two modules, and I take questions and I explain it. I show and I bring up videos, and I try to point out not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is I would almost say above and beyond the call of duty, but that's the way you wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish with our course that we had the ability to do that. We just unfortunately don't. But you're right. Even you could hear you and I talk a little bit today and get a piece, but you're not going to really learn anything. You could watch it, but to your point, you're still going to have questions, even though on the video you're showing them the right way and the one that was not as good and the one that was but people with one dog, it gets overwhelming for them. And the fact that they could reach out to you and get on a Zoom like that, that's fantastic.
Well,
and those basics have to apply to, I mean, I'm exaggerating it, but if you just had a house dog and you wanted to teach them, it would absolutely, those three basics.
Yeah, when somebody comes to the door, or you're walking down the street, and
Yeah.
you got to, I mean, there needs to be a bomb-proof factor to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And I did a little bit of this, a version of this, when I spent a winter in Alaska with a team of sled dogs. We said, all right, let's build a basics program. Let's reverse engineer. What do we want the end product to look like?
Mhm.
And let's work backwards. And what are we going to have to do? And what are all the scenarios where these behaviors can go wrong on the days that you don't want it to go wrong on?
Right.
And how are we going to prepare for it?
Yeah.
And that's the whole science behind, a basics program that Rex Carr started many, many, many years ago. And, Ron, this launched into I got into the support thing. Like, all right, I'm not doing enough, and I'm just driven almost to fanaticism by it.
Yeah.
And so I started an online membership program called the Retriever Revolution. And so this is not only do they have, there are people that have taken Bombproof Basics that are part of the Retriever Revolution, and it's a ongoing support.
Right.
People can send me questions, send me videos, access material, access the basics routine.
Kind of like getting to live next door to you a little bit.
Yeah, we do monthly calls where we talk about that month material. Then we also do monthly calls with myself and Ray Vogt. You know Ray from Purina.
Yeah.
And we call it it's essentially pop-up office hours, where it's just open Q&A. Just
Yep.
we're sitting there sipping a bourbon, sitting on the back porch, and we're just talking dogs.
Right.
And we do that, and we have expert guests come in, and so it's just a think tank of information. And each week, I just finished doing 2 weeks worth of material for the next 2 weeks. I've been doing it since August of '83. So all the archives of each weekly material is up. So it's, in some ways, like I said, it's an overwhelming amount of information, but I'm trying really hard to show people things that I learned in my 40 plus years, and how I can teach them to be better to their dogs and understand.
Yeah, and if you can be better, you're going to have a better dog. Just period. I mean, it may not be a dog that's going to go to the Master Nationals or to a Invitational, but I would say you had a mediocre dog. If you still did these basics, you're going to have something that it's not a matter sometimes of, you've been out with enough people. Sometimes it's not a matter of saying I have the best dog. You just don't want to walk out there with somebody saying, my God, that was the worst dog I ever saw. And I'm sure you've run into a few of them.
Oh, sure you do. Sure you do. But we've all been there.
Mhm.
If you haven't been there, you're lying.
If
I
you
mean,
haven't been there, you just started today.
right.
Yeah.
And I've got a number of people that are predominantly hunters, that just want a really well-trained
Right.
finished dog.
It's so essential. Yeah.
And, I do a lot of, in my video process from competitions and that, try to draw out an understanding of reading dog in the field, identifying dog behavior so people can see what it looks like and how I interpret it. So when they see that with their dog, they're going to say, aha, okay, I've seen that before.
Right. Because that's the thing. One of the things you said, and it's probably the two, not the three basics, but the two things that get people messed up are not enough experience to read their dog,
Right.
right? And the other one is the first part of that sentence, not enough experience.
Right.
So you, and when you see, if your dog did some little thing every time, but you thought, well, he's still getting the retrieve and he's still bringing it back to me, but he's doing something that's pleasuring him, let's say, or he has a quirk or a behavior. If you don't know that's not ideal, if you do that over and over again, you let the dog make the decision.
Right.
And now let's say you did want to go compete, well, you're gonna have a tough road ahead of you. You know,
Well, there's a safety factor. I mean, if your retriever is breaking,
yeah,
it's not safe. If your retriever won't handle in the field and he's disrupting a hunt, it's
yeah,
going to make that unpleasant. If he's not handling his birds properly, that's a problem. I mean, all these things are based on practical reasons.
right,
And
right.
they're all, and I got in this as a hunter, just like you did.
Yeah.
And so I relate everything to what is going to make this dog a better hunting dog and a companion dog.
Yeah. So let me just ask a couple softball questions because I really don't know the answer. I'm going to assume that Bombproof Basics starts out at 4 months. I don't know. What do you, if, is there, I know all dogs are different, so there's no, you can't say a date in a month on a calendar,
Right.
but what is a typical good age to start these kind of techniques?
Early obedience. I say this is when you go from the stage from 1-2 to half two.
One, two, have to.
First of all, I'm telling them to sit and I'm giving them a cookie. Then I'm telling them to sit because they need to sit because I'm telling them.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're right. You're in that kind of zone. That now 4 months. Usually most people start the fetch work when the dog finishes teething, and that's usually a 6-month deal.
6 months. Yeah.
So I would say, the guts of the Bombproof Basics happens from 6 to 14 months. But some dogs just aren't, even though they're ready to be fetched, they're just mature, not psychologically mature enough to handle that.
Right.
So sometimes, so you may not start them till they're a year old.
Right.
There is, Pat Nolan has a great From Pup Up program. It's the pre-basics. And so I steer people to that prior to starting this basics, and it kind of gets them going with going to place boards and learning how to learn. And then it just accelerates their understanding of
Right.
when we go from 1-2 to half two.
It's funny you said that. It made me think of there was, I was kind of known for a long time of with the Bracco Italianos, right? And a little bit of a laughing stock, but I loved them, right? And when you had a great one, you had a good one. Okay. I'm saying that backwards, right? But I always thought like they were like so slow to mature just because they looked so dopey, right? And I sold this dog to a lady in New York who was actually uh, one of these people who would go to your home and help you train your pet dogs, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And she had a Weimaraner and she liked sporting dogs. She wasn't going to hunt, but she liked sporting dogs. And she sent me a video of this pup. So she got it at about 8 or 9 weeks, and it was about 3 weeks later. And she sent me some little videos from home. And I'm the dummy who didn't start working with these young dogs when they could learn to learn.
Right.
Like she had them come sit down, like no pressure on this dog, just with some treat work, then to the hand. And I was like, can I send you one? Can I send you my
Yeah.
puppy? I literally never, I do now, but I almost never even messed around with them when they were, uh, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks old. I kind of just like, oh, come on, be my buddy, and we'll take a walk and things. But it's amazing that, like you said, what was that course you send people to for like
From pup up, Pat Nolan.
Pat Nolan, pup up. So it's
From
kind of
pup,
like
it's just FROM pup up,
so it's
and
kind of
it's a.
like daycare for before they're ready for kindergarten.
Oh,
Like,
you should see the
yeah,
little things he's doing with,
yeah,
using Dixie cups and lining his, and again, it's kind of retriever-ish, but it is very applicable to teaching a dog to be patient, to learn all the things you just described, and it's based on, positive reinforcement, uh, and
early,
developing
early,
patience
really early on. Like
really early. Just like you said, I mean,
when you
at
get
10,
them home.
12 weeks, they're doing things like I didn't think you could teach a dog to do that at that age.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's really cool. So it really primes them to go into what I call a formal basics program.
Right.
And basics programs are always evolving. This is, what I learned from day one to what we've evolved over the years,
What you
working
learned
with
last
myself,
week.
working with Mike Lardy, working last week, working with a conformation golden retriever that is sitting upstairs in my living room because that's what my wife has had conformation golden. So I say, all right, I'm going to take a challenge. I'm going to try to make this dog a master hunter. So he's in the middle of double T right now, and he's learning from 1-2 to half two. And
It's funny too. You mentioned Mike Lardy. Now, a lot of my listeners might pick out one name in the lab world, because back in
sure.
the day, it would be, almost on everybody's radar. And I got to meet Mike with Jennifer up in the Upper Peninsula, and he went to the pointing dog world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then he just passed his dog in the Invitational.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, last fall. And so I'm what I'm telling my listeners is anybody who does the versatile games, whether it's the German testing or the Federation testing or the NAVDA testing, there's water work in all that in those versatile clubs. We got to have the lines and we got to have the come when called and the go when we say go. It's the same thing.
It is the same thing.
They just come in more than 3 colors.
Right. And it's every one of these sports, it's that fine, delicate balance between trained and natural behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have enough of one, the other one suffers.
Have you ever seen another wrong way to phrase a question? I should say, when you see a dog that has something like a gift, like a natural gift, like something, do you still put it through the same?
Absolutely. Even more so.
Assume like, oh, he's got this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes those are the ones that are easy to fall into the trap because,
really?
Yeah, because they do things without being made to do things until on a given day. They may be 6 years old, they may be 7 years old, but sooner or later, there's going to be you're going to have problems. I've been around a bunch of them in the top tier of AKC records, and they all put their pants on the same way. They've all had problems. They've all had bad days. And
might
so
come
to have
later,
the illusion
might come early, might come later. But
right.
So just because it's a phenom doesn't mean it doesn't go right to first grade and start with the basics.
Absolutely.
You don't skip. Yeah.
And that's where people get themselves in trouble because the dogs do things without really knowing why they're doing them. And there's the naive stage will change. And at some point, almost always, there's going to be problems. And if you don't have the tools to fix them in place, it's way more difficult.
Right. Then you're just looking for luck.
Right.
Or what did my friend Rusty always says? Ron, hope is not a strategy.
Right. That's exactly right.
You don't want to go like,
not a strategy.
I hope he does it right today.
Yeah. Ron, we've all been around. I wasn't one of these guys. We've all been around those guys in school that they didn't have to study. They they got A's without studying
Yeah. Yeah.
until they got to Harvard or
Or in
Cornell
the workforce.
or in the real world.
In
And
the real
now
world.
they didn't know how to study. This is a little bit of that same mentality.
Yeah.
So like, whoa, why does he have to work hard? Because he can do it without even trying. Well, eventually, when you become the little fish in the big pond, you're going to have to dig down a little deeper. And if you're not prepared to do that, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Whether you're competing or just doing anything.
Yeah. And just to say the word bomb-proof basics, you could make a bunch of words that are very similar. You could say bomb-proof foundation,
Yep.
right? I mean, but it's all those things you do consistently. But is there a couple tidbits you could take away that we could take away verbally today? Like, let's say when you're working with a young dog and you're just at that first command, come, right?
Yes.
Like puppies tend to come to us till a certain age. Like
Right.
it's rare to see a puppy that doesn't want to come up to you. Like, but what's a couple of like techniques to know that he's actually coming to you for you? Like,
Well, certainly the speed and intensity in which they come,
okay.
and then coming when there's reasons not to come.
Mm,
When they're distracted or they smell a bird or they're, or they're doing something other than paying attention to you. That's when it's critical. And the come thing is probably the most important because it's going to save your dog's life someday.
yeah.
You're going to be somewhere near a road somewhere where
Yep.
they're going to be in a jeopardy to get themselves hurt, injured, or killed.
Yeah.
And if they're in a distracted or excited state and they don't want to listen, well, it can be life or death. So the importance of coming instantly under every distraction condition, they've got to do it when they're excited, worried. People say, oh, he's worried. Well, no, he's got to learn to behave when he doesn't feel like behaving. And just like we had to do growing up. And so I guess a couple things, Ron, that people don't do enough of. That first of all, having high standards doesn't mean you have to use high pressure. In other words, you explain the rules, you be consistent about enforcing them, you make it happen. And when you say sit, I mean now, not on the seventh sit.
Right.
And then once they adapt and the good behaviors become the habit, there's no pressure involved in that. That's just what they do. The pressure happens when people say, well, today I'm going to be strict, but tomorrow I'm not. And then there's a revolving standard. And then you finally get fed up and you say, we got to do something about this. And you've let bad behavior become bad habits. And now you have to go to more extreme measures to change it. And that's where the misunderstanding of high standards with high pressure. If the pressure and the discipline is more on us don't give them a command you're not going to enforce. If you're not going to make them sit, don't tell them to sit. But if you tell them to sit and make them do it right then. And if we all had coaches and stuff like that. I wanted to know where I stood. If I know what the rules are and I know they're non-negotiable, I'm good. And that's what you want your dog to feel like.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah.
And the other thing you try to teach them is to respond instantly and the value of being really crisp in their behavior. In other words, when I want a dog to sit, I want him to sit with enthusiasm.
Yeah, you don't want this long, slow thinking about it. I didn't ask you to think about sitting. I asked you to sit.
And the same thing with coming. And there's going to be times where they're going to behave that way. So you're not only trying to mold the good mechanical behavior, you're trying to teach them the value of doing it and that it's fun to be good and the importance of doing it instantly, rapidly, and that they learn to be happy doing that.
Right.
They also, and you also build in dealing with, challenges and adversity that prepare them for the real world. When they have a bad day, it isn't the end of the world. They're going to have it where they just make mistakes. And so the idea also with Bombproof Basics is to teach a dog that is tougher or less compliant the joy of compliance. To teach a softer dog to be more resilient.
Yeah.
To not, and then the trap so many people will fall into is that a soft dog learns to use sensitivity as a defense mechanism. If they act sheepish or withdrawn, then you oftentimes say, well, it's okay, you don't have to do it.
Right.
Well, you pretty quickly teach them when you're asking them to do something they don't feel like. If they just act this way, you're going to abandon the rules. And so it's those sensitive dogs that can be tricky. And you got to teach them no. You got to give them a command that you know they can do. And then you don't use praise and reward until you see effort. So many people want to use praise as bribery. And that's the one challenge that we all fall into.
I like that effort, not just a result, but an effort for the result. Yeah.
Effort is an earnest attempt.
Yeah.
That's all I want. They don't have to be right. I just got a sense that they're trying to be right.
Right.
And then it's my job to show them what it is to be right.
Yeah.
And then you build in that joy of trying. And it's, you mold this wonderful animal that accepts challenges, can roll with the punches a little bit, is your buddy, you respect him, he respects you, you become a team. I mean, at 40 years, I still get goosebumps thinking of when that happens. And when you see it, you know it. And now you can deal with anything. The world, you're good. Problems are going to happen, and we're just going to go to work and fix them.
Right. I mean,
they're not career-ending things.
In a hunting situation, and I had the dogs back in the day. I remember I've told this story a few times on my tailgate. I always used to when we'd go grouse hunting, I would just drop my tailgate, open the door, let the dog jump out, run around the truck, pee on a tree while I'm getting my vest and my hat and my glove, and I let him do what he wanted to do. And when I went to go put his collar on, he wasn't ready. He was like a little kid that never been scolded before. I literally had to scream at him to come out. And I was with this other fellow. He was a mentor of mine, Dick DeCam. He was a NAVDA judge. And he's kind of watching me as I get my dog. And I'm like, come here, come. And the dog's thrashing his head. And I'm trying to get the e-collar on it. And he's just calmly getting dressed and getting his vest on. And he got his gun out and he leaned it on the truck. And he opened the door. And the dog jumped out with the same exact enthusiasm as my dog. But he said one word. He said the dog's name, and he sat.
Bam.
And he put the collar on him. And I looked over. I'm like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like, Well,
and then you release him and let him be a dog. Go ahead, have fun.
Exactly. But my first dog, it was like, well, I'm as excited as he is, and that was such the wrong approach. And for the rest of his days, that dog was a pain, and I loved him, but he was a pain in the butt. He was just a pain in the butt, and I fostered that by not doing now I would assume in basics, you would probably do the same thing with crate training and waiting for a door to open, right?
Yep, exactly.
You don't let them just come out of the kennel door when you open it to let him, you close that door in his face. And when you see the pause in the dog, like, oh, he's ready to wait. Maybe
that's effort.
There's your effort.
There's your effort right there.
He made the effort to not get banged in the door, so he got a little bit of understanding. And then when the door is open and he hears his name, it doesn't take a dog very long to figure that out, Right. But I did it wrong for at least 10 years, at least,
So you talk about the dog at the door. This is the dog that maybe the first time he did just what you said, and you slammed the door crate and he got startled. But the next time he starts to do it and he catches himself.
Yeah.
That's your aha moment. That's the effort moment. That's when you make over them. That's when you add praise and reward. And then they learn, like, all right, what do you want me to do next? Then, then you start, then it can be more and more and more complex tasks until you piece a bunch of them together. Now you've got a highly trained dog that does disciplined things, and it acts like it's his idea to start with. He loves it. That's the goal.
If my mom could have used that with reading and me, she I might have went on to college. Who knows? I, I, I think she took the wrong approach. I think she just left the books in the bookshelf and didn't insist on making me take one off the shelf.
So Ron, I guess the big thing I'm personally dedicated to in Bombproof Basics and all of my format, my Elite Retrievers format, is getting people to understand the principles behind the steps. So why are we doing this? What's the value in it? How are we gonna, and what's it gonna look like when we're done with it? And why is it, it's not just you need to do this because I'm telling you. I want you to understand, the reason that it's done that way and why it's valuable and why you're going to be glad you did it. And you're going to thank me or whoever else taught you how to do that. And and once again, if people are interested at all in finding out a little bit more about this, there's a lot of material on the eliteretrievers.com site. There is a series of Purina master classes that are 3 and 4 years of all different types of venues, from nutritionists, Arlie Reynolds, Dr. Janelle Appel, with conditioning, with veterinarian assistants, with pointing trainers, with herding dog trainers, with spaniel trainers, retriever trainers, all kinds of stuff. So that's right on the front page, the Purina Masterclass Library, and you and I both appreciate all that Purina does.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And also if you scroll right down to the bottom and you see learn more about the Retriever Revolution, well, you can click on that. That'll take you to a format where you can inquire when you can join. Same thing on the Bombproof Basics. So if there's anything, or just go to eliteretrievers.com and send us an email and ask us if there's anything we can do to help you, because that's what I love to do.
Yeah. I mean, I have never hung my shingle out as a dog trainer. I always felt that, I was a little too busy. I had a different career path, and people have asked me, can you help me train my dog? I'm like, I can tell you what I've done, but I'm not a dog trainer, and when you've got a resource that it's like now having our smartphone. Like, I don't know what that plant is, but now I can identify it,
Right.
And yeah, I encourage people to look it up, because I've seen quite a few of the master classes, and quite honestly, it's better than scrolling through YouTube at night. And I'm guilty of both,
Yeah.
but you pick up something from everybody, just a little bit. And it might be somebody listening to this one that ears perked up, like, what do you mean close the door on the puppy when, might be that one little thing that gets you interested. Like, that could be your first training thing that you're like, wow, I did it. I actually did it. Like, I've trained my own dogs for test. I've never trained other people's dogs. So I'm segueing this into, do you still take dogs in on training, or are you more of a person trainer now than do you take dogs in? Because that's got to be stressful too.
Right. And I had a large kennel in Michigan, not too far from you.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
For 20 years. And I worked with Mike Lardy when I first started in the early 80s. Had my place in Michigan. It was a Spree Kennels, and we very active. And then I went back to work with Mike. But today I do not have a kennel. I live in a neighborhood in Bristol, Tennessee, and Boston, Georgia, depending on what time of year.
No.
And I train people to train their own dogs. I do a daily, what we call a day school training format from October through April, where it's the equivalent of when we had dogs in training, but you bring your own dog out.
Right.
And I set up the agenda for the day, and I set up a format. I have the grounds, I have the birds, I have all of the help, and we train just as if the dog was in training in a normal professional operation.
Right.
But you're a part of it. So I guess I am still training dogs, but I'm training people to train their own dogs.
I think that's
There's times where I step in and say, well, let me do this for you and show you how.
Right, right.
But I don't have a kennel in my backyard like I used to, where I'm going out to air dogs, and then the owners call up and say, how they doing? And I say, well,
right. You did that. You did that long enough. You did that.
It was good. It was, I wouldn't be doing what I do today. I wouldn't have the knowledge if I didn't have the experience and make all the mistakes that I'm trying to show you how not to make.
Right. In the versatile world, uh, you know, it's really no different than the retriever world, any kind of dog work world. Whether I'm sure it's the same for Schutzhund work and in narcotics dogs and everything. But we, I gotta paraphrase this. No, shoot, it went right out of my head. That's because I was thinking too hard while you were talking. That is my fault. But you said something that made me think about something. Damn it. Well, that's what my podcast is known for. Honesty. I totally blanked on that, but I'll come back to that question. I will come back to it. It'll come back up in my head.
Ron, I've so enjoyed, I do some consulting for Purina and for Garmin, and I've gone to the National Cattle Dog Finals this year, and I went to a number of herding dog events, Springer National, and just had the wonderful opportunity to not only enjoy watching other dogs, great dogs, went to a number of the World Championship sled dog events, and watching other trainers and other venues do different things, and it's a constant learning. And this is just a school that you never graduate from. And if you think you're graduated, that's when you're in trouble.
So
that's me. I'm talking about myself.
So as dog owners, we're going to be career trainers of some sort or another. Yeah. Yeah.
It never ends, and it needs to continue to evolve because we're developing better, kinder, smarter ways to train dogs.
So I knew where I was going. I knew you'd bring it back out of me, Pat. We talked a lot of times in the versatile dog world about as the breeding gets better, we're getting better dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be health problems that go along with that and other things too. But we're kind of getting better dogs from better breeding, right? But it seems like the training you could get if I said, Pat, help me find a great retriever. I want to do a little bit of competition with it, but I start me off with a great breeding. You could probably steer me there, but that's not going to let me skip anything, is it?
No, of course
not. It's not going to let me skip anything.
But what the great breeding has done is that's
what I wanted you to expound on. Yeah.
Well, let me use this as an example. When I reflect on how the Labrador breed specifically has evolved from the early 1980s to today, it's monumental. The dogs are way, way more sensitive today.
Sensitive,
period. They are more responsive, require less correction or less severity of correction to change behavior.
Wow.
Because partly, I think it's an evolving thing.
Sure.
First of all, a more sensitive dog is more user-friendly. It's easier for an average guy. You don't have to be as harsh on them, discipline all the time. Lessons stick longer. They're more pleasant, period. As long as they've got, good talent, desire to retrieve, point, all of those things. Yeah. So the Labrador breed itself, dramatic change in the temperament of the dogs. So in a positive way. I think the more sophisticated, and I thank Mike Lardy for this a lot, because we started embracing and training. We used to say sensitivity was like, you thought that was a bad word.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Now, fragile, no desire. Yeah. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm talking about a dog that you can swat with your little ball cap and it makes an impression.
As opposed to a 2x4.
Right. Exactly. Right. So but the Labrador, a couple of things. The grounds that we compete and train on have changed. So the structure of the dogs have changed a little bit. I think they've become more thoroughbred-ish. And that's not necessarily a great thing. But what is a great thing is that we've made dogs more user-friendly, easier for people to manage themselves. And I know that it's been the technique. And, that's the thing that's amazing about dogs, that you can change things because the generation turnover happens so rapidly compared to humans.
Yeah, right. It's, basically 20 years or so, right? For a person.
And the more we continue to pay forward the things we've learned, so the guy that I'm teaching can teach somebody else,
Right.
they're going to continue to get better and smarter. And we're going to find better ways to do all these things. And the dogs and we are both going to benefit from it, period.
Do you do a lot? I just saw something. I can't remember where I saw this, but the real early puppy stuff, making eye contact with you. Now, some people say some dogs just don't like to make eye contact, but do you take that on as a bit of a technique to when you've got a small dog to almost look it in the eyes and see, you know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't necessarily
Hold their head.
but I want to make them incredibly comfortable with me and me with them. And that's certainly a big part of it. You know, some dogs are, some of the best dogs I can think of had some odd traits about them. They were quirky, we would call them,
Yeah.
you know, and they may be socially quirky with another dog. They may be a little bit odd with people.
Yeah.
You know, you can think of geniuses, you know, that are that way, that are.
Yeah, yeah, they don't look at you when they talk, and
So
yeah,
I think there are some things that, right, you know, you work with just the temperament of that. You try to enhance it and make them more comfortable.
right.
And you learn to figure out when I say buttons to push, what things motivate them in a positive way. What do they like? Not just birds or retrieving, and not just a pat on the head, but that whole combination. So some of it is, getting them comfortable so that they bond with you and you bond with them and they trust you. I think trust is such a big thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, what does trust mean? Trust means, and what is not what most people think. Trust doesn't mean that, you're going to feed them at night, which it certainly does to a certain degree.
Right.
Trust means that the rules don't change. When you tell them this is the way it goes, you're consistent. You don't correct them for something tomorrow that you let them do yesterday and back and forth. That's where they learn to trust, like, okay, you know what? I'm not, you're not going to throw me under the bus. And if you have any doubt that they don't understand what it is, you show them.
Yeah.
And they learn dogs just, it
Uncanny.
almost tears your heart out
Yeah.
because they'll trust you when they shouldn't trust you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like, okay, we're going to lower you over this cliff right now. Are you sure?
But I think a lot of that starts with, you're right, that puppy, that eye contact, that you're going to protect them. You're not going to coddle them.
Right.
You're not going to make them, afraid of the atmosphere.
Right.
You're going to keep them safe, and you're going to make sure that, and you're going to work hard to develop a relationship with them, and you're going to be willing to accept their uniqueness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny you said that too, because people, I don't think they realize how unique, like, I hate saying they're all different, right? Because they're all dogs and they can all be trained with a certain method. But you're right, there is a uniqueness to a dog. And that's also comes with owning several dogs or,
Mhm.
jumping in with both feet and becoming a trainer.
Right.
That uniqueness, just because that one dog went through the training table, well, that was unique to him. And the other one had the hardest time coming off the ramp, say, just for some reason.
Right.
They all ended up getting to the trained retrieve down pat, but that uniqueness, like, for some reason, that dog just didn't want to carry it going down, as opposed to maybe he wanted to get on the table. And maybe he was a dog that actually would rather train more, and he just acted like he didn't want to get up. But that uniqueness is a great term. That and trust, I'm going to put them in my dog vocabulary more often.
Yeah, and I know they're kind of cliche words, but
It's
when you look a little deeper in what it truly means,
right.
that's when it makes sense. And you're right. There's a lot of different ways to get to Mecca, right? And that's and we've learned to be smarter about adapting and finding creative ways to get things accomplished. That you don't just say you're going to do it this way or else.
Right.
Now, there's a certain time and certain things you draw a line in the sand and say, here's the rules.
Right.
But you work hard to identify their personality, work within it, develop a bond, eye contact, and again, make that maybe a little more fragile dog a little more resilient, make that dog that's a little bit more self-absorbed, realizing that, you know what, good things happen when I try to be good. I mean, there's teaching a dog the joy of compliance, that it's fun to be good. Some dogs are just like some people are all for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can mold that. And if you take it on as a fun challenge to try to identify that, and again, I think of it like almost some pottery, like you're molding this into a workable, good adult.
Vessel. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're trying to do. And you're going to make, then you can help a dog be the best they can be.
Right.
Then there's the God-given skill part of it that
Right.
we don't have a ton of control over.
But again, that God-given skill the dog could use it to his advantage and not listen too, right?
Oh,
I mean, that one with the better nose be like, oh yeah, I ain't listening to you right now. I know. Well, they still got it. They all got to go through basically the same school and graduate each grade slowly to get where you're going. But I've always said, people ask me like, when did you feel like you were confident that you could let your dogs out of the truck, get a collar on them, go hunting, call them in when it's time? And I'll bet you it was probably 10 years and a few dogs before I felt. So I'm going to ask you a really sticky question. You've been messing with dogs since the 80s, right?
mm-hmm.
When was your aha moment like, oh my gosh, I'm getting pretty good at this? Because you can't be good. You can't be great from day one. You had mentors and you had programs to watch. But when did Pat feel like, I think I got this?
I got a little instinct for it.
Yeah.
It's like so many things. The minute you think you've got it, then something brings you back down, right? You realize, so I think there were times where I thought I had it and I knew it, and I realized I didn't.
Yeah.
And I say today, I mean, I'm a measure twice, cut once guy. You know what I mean by that? Like, I don't want to jump to early conclusions. And I think that's when we get ourselves in trouble, is that I've seen this before. No, wait a minute. Just make sure you're actually seeing what you think you're seeing.
Yeah.
So in some ways I say, I don't ever want to be so brazen to think I've got it. And I don't want to think that today. So part of me says never. Part of me says, as you start to feel good about reading behavior and developing an instinct, it was probably, I did this right out of high school. I went to California not too long after that. I went to work for Mike Lardy when I was 22. I'm 63 now. Some part way into my personal professional career, when I left Mike, I started to have success, and you started to realize, all right, if I really do this right and keep working hard and pay attention, I think I can be pretty successful at this. Yeah. So 10 years, probably about like what you said.
Yeah. I know. Now, have you judged trials as well? Have you stayed off of that side of the?
Well, part of it is part of the thing that is restrictive in the world of field trial retrievers is professionals can't judge.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That's a whole new thing. But yeah. I did do some. So once I turned professional in the world that I was an expert in, I wasn't allowed to judge.
Gotcha.
But hunt tests, the Super Retriever Series, some of the other things, I'm getting asked to do some of that. Yeah. And I enjoy doing it. In so many ways, I think I judge every day.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to read behavior, identify good qualities, right. Set up scenarios that reward the traits and skills that I want to promote.
Yeah.
And I think being a judge is such an incredible responsibility, not just to be fair on that weekend, but what I just said about how dramatically you can change the whole everything about a breed of a dog. that's what judges will do, because when you start rewarding things and those dogs win and succeed, those are the dogs that are bred. Those are the traits that are carried on. So
Right.
there's a certain amount of responsibility
Yeah.
to make sure you're staying within what the vision is and the
Right.
betterment,
I
the
never thought
future
of that.
of all these dogs.
You're kind of putting a crown on it and saying,
Boom.
I gave you the sign of the sign of the cross, and you're good to
Right.
go. So
And
somebody's
people that don't know, those are the dogs they're going to breed to. Those
Right.
are the traits that are going to get promoted, and that's how the whole thing plays out.
never
So
thought of that. And I've judged for a long time. I never thought of that. God, I could be responsible for some bad ones and some good ones. But
well, and you're going to, right. We make mistakes too, but
Yeah.
you think what you like, and you think what, and as a hunter and everything, I mean, it's courage, it's perseverance, it's trainability, it's intelligence, it's you know uh, eyesight, instinct, so many. But when you see those things and you design things that reward those things, you're pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Pat, I don't want to eat up too much of your time, but I've ever since I met you in person and we sat in the hotel lobby and chatted till the wee hours, I was like, yeah, I just made a new friend, and that's kind of what the dog world is. And
You bet
uh,
it is.
you've invited me, Jennifer Broom's invited me, and I'm going to make every effort to come down and see you guys in Georgia this year because, like I said earlier before we started recording, I could probably get a half a year's worth of content from all the trainers down there.
Absolutely.
And it, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done and what you're doing, and I'll do my unbiased thanks to Purina for basically getting us to meet each other. It's another good thing about feeding good food, right? You get to
Awesome. Absolutely. Ron, thank you very much. Good luck with your knee surgery and your recovery. Come down and see us. And I'll see you in Minneapolis at Pheasant Fest.
All right. And you're going to be at the Garmin booth if people want to come see you.
I'll be at the Garmin booth, and I'll be at the Southeast Wildlife Expo in Charleston at the Purina booth.
So plenty of places they can come meet you.
Absolutely. Or look, eliteretrievers.com. Give me a shout. And
club, it's like having Pat as your neighbor.
That's what I'm hoping. That's my vision, at least, buddy. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.